up, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Just Your Board Podcast. My name's Stephen Wright, joined by Mr. William Monroe. How you doing, Will?
Steve, doing very well after that big U.S. men's national team win in the World Cup. I don't know if you got to watch any of it today.
I do not watch soccer, but I did hear about it. So yeah, they go on to, face England or something at this point?
No, England was in their group, so they're on different sides of the bracket.
Right.
Now it's kind of like the quote-unquote playoff. Still face the Netherlands this Saturday.
Yeah, interesting. Okay.
Yeah, it's the round of 16, so 16 teams will be left once that starts.
Yeah, we'll see what happens. I think just making it this far is a win.
Here.
Yeah.
Yeah, for them. I mean, getting ready for hosting it in 4 years.
Yeah, and I did see we tied England earlier. That's a big win in of itself, even though it wasn't technically a win. It's definitely a win.
Exactly. It's a plus for a team that's on the rise, not a superpower like England is in soccer.
Yeah, absolutely. But to the other football.
We
have some start-sit stuff. Are you ready to jump on into it?
Yeah, we've got some interesting ones here. This is the last week of the regular season for some people, probably second to last week for most, as we move here into week 13.
Yeah, we're going to start it off with what I think probably all three of our quarterback ones. Pretty difficult, I think. Tua, been really good, but he's at San Francisco.
Tough matchup.
Yeah, Trevor Lawrence, been up and down, coming off a good week, but he gets the easy matchup at Detroit. So start your studs, you go with the streamer. What are you doing here?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's, a floor play in Lawrence. I mean, good matchup. I think we really liked a lot of the guys on the waiver show yesterday on the Jaguars, and he was one of them. I think he's a great stream. I don't think at this stage of the game, would have the cojones to start him over Tua, even in a tough matchup in San Francisco. I just think the weapons are there. He could have 2 short passes that turn into 2 long touchdowns because Jalen Waddle and Tyreek Hill are just that good. So I just don't think I could sit Tua for Trevor. I mean, it's the matchups say it's doable, and I wouldn't fault you for doing it. If you are projected to win big and you want to take maybe just kind of the floor play of Trevor Lawrence, I think that's an option. But I don't think I can sit Tua the way he's playing, the weapons he has, and what's seems like a game that he's probably going to have to score against San Francisco. Yeah,
I think that's where I end up standing too. You can't bench him at this point, no matter how difficult the matchup. Plus, if there's anyone that's in a good position to take advantage of the 49ers defense, it's the Dolphins coach who is, in San Francisco, knows what they're doing there. He hasn't been there this year, but it's not all that different. So, maybe that helps Miami, break that defense open a little bit, that, other teams just kind of struggle with. So I'm with you. I'll stick with Tua there.
All right. Next up here, another quarterback head-to-head. The leading completion percentage in the NFL this season, Geno Smith at the Rams or Lamar Jackson versus the Broncos.
Yeah, Lamar finally had himself a pretty good fantasy game this week against Jacksonville, a loss. Denver has a really good fantasy defense against quarterbacks. So that, that's tough. And combine that with his play over 8 weeks or so, fantasy play. I think I lean Geno. Lamar probably has more upside to him, but Geno's probably the safer option, I think.
Yeah, this is a similar one to the last one. And Geno has been lights out this year. Another one where you didn't expect to see that, but Geno's been one of the better passers in the NFL. The matchups, kind of mirror that last one. Broncos look really, really good defense. Rams, not as much this year with all the injuries they've incurred. But I think the weapons kind of lean me here. I think it was close as the last one was, but as opposed to the last one, the better quarterback, I think, in Lamar doesn't have the weapons that Geno has with Tyler Lockett, same initials there, and DK Metcalf on top of the tight ends that they use, and Kenneth Walker. Lamar, I mean, his main weapon there is Mark Andrews, and ran a ton around that. So I think that's really what comes down to for me, the weapons, people that can help him come up with a big week. So I think I lean Geno here as well.
Awesome. And then throwing out a name that everyone's going to be asking about this week, would you rather start Carr versus the Chargers or Deshaun Watson in his debut at Houston?
Yeah, I think Carr's definitely the floor play here. I don't mind taking a shot on Deshaun Watson here. I mean, I guess it really depends on what you need. Like if you're, a situation where you need just to get some good points out of him, the floor is 0 for Watson because we just don't know. He could come out and look washed. We haven't seen him play in 2 years at this point. But I think there is a much higher ceiling there where he could come out, on fire going up against his former team, who he's not very happy with, and they may want to stick it to him and run the score up. So I think it's close. I think I lean Watson in the matchup there. But I do think the Chargers aren't a bad matchup for Derek Carr, especially with Davante Adams there. So I think it's definitely the safer play.
Yeah, I'll stick with that safer play and go with Carr. I'm not willing to play Watson, who we haven't seen in a year and a half play on a new team, in his first game back. I'm going to want to see, if he comes out and he's on fire, I'll probably start him next week. If he comes out and he's like average, I'll probably keep waiting. But I'd rather see something first before I start him. Just given everything has changed and how long it's been. It'd be one thing if he was, had a preseason injury and he's been out, the first 10 weeks. Like I'd be more okay with that. But a year and a half or year and a half plus, it's a long time. Yeah. So I'll stick with Carr here just to get that safety.
All right. So that wraps up the quarterbacks. Move on to running backs here. We've got pick 2. Half PPR, Devin Singletary at New England, Ezekiel Elliott at home versus the Colts, or Antonio Gibson in New York against the Giants.
Yeah, this I'm not thrilled about this one. I think Zeke is a lock for me because I believe in the volume and I'll be happy with that. Gibson's been getting pretty good volume. Only 9 carries this past week, but double digits, the prior 3 weeks before that. I think I'll lean on that, which makes Singletary the odd man out. New England run defense, went top 3 in the league. And I just don't think Singletary is a good enough back to overcome that. Obviously good offense. So Singletary could get 30 yards and a touchdown and, it's pretty good. But I just don't think he's a talent enough to overcome that. So I will go with Zeke and Gibson here.
Yeah, I'm going to go Zeke and Singletary. What you said makes sense. And I think it kind of goes with Singletary when it comes to the volume standpoint. He's been double digits every week, but one since week 5. So I like the volume there. He does get some targets, so he's going to have a few catches. And just an overall better offense, I think. Obviously Washington's running the ball well, but Gibson's more the second fiddle there. I think they really want to keep getting the rookie going. I think they're all decent volume plays, but I'm going to stick with Zeke, who, when healthy, is getting 15-ish carries a game. And I'm going to go with Singletary, who I think is clearly the 1A, and in close games, he plays a lot more. And I think with New England, I think this could be a closer game, and we're going to see him involved more. Especially, he's someone I think that gets a little bit more work in the passing game than you're going to see with an Antonio Gibson. He's gotten some work recently, but I think Singletary is the guy for me.
Okay, next up, PPR, Jeff Wilson at San Francisco or Dameon Pierce versus the Browns.
Man, how the mighty have fallen. Pierce was on top of the world.
Yeah.
Then, still in the RB2 conversation here. I think I lean Pierce, but man, that last, line of 5 for 8 and then 10 for 8, back-to-back weeks, that is not appealing. you hope it's not the NFL's caught up to him. I think a lot of this is going to come down to is Mostert healthy. When Mostert's healthy, I think it's a little more even of a split, even if Wilson is kind of the lean. Whereas when he's not healthy, Wilson gets all the work. And I think, like the head coach wants to stick it to San Francisco, I think the running backs do too. Both of them are former Niners. So it's close. I think I am going to lean Wilson here. If Mostert's in, I think it's a lot closer. If Mostert's not playing, I think it's pretty easily Wilson.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of the things we said to Tua kind of apply to Jeff Wilson as well. He'll know the defense. He's on a good offense, blah, blah, blah. So I'll go with him as well. To your point, Pierce has been disappointing for 2 weeks, but Brown's running defense isn't great. And if he has a big game, it wouldn't surprise me at all. So, if you like Dameon Pierce over Wilson, I'm fine with that. But yeah, personally, I'm going Wilson as well.
All right. Now the last running back matchup, full PPR, Alvin Kamara in Tampa Bay, Miles Sanders at home for the Titans.
Yeah, this is a wild one. But Kamara, the past 4 weeks, just not been great. In the game against the Rams, he was fine, but it wasn't, the Kamara that you were wanting and the Kamara that he was for the, 4 or 5 weeks prior to that. He's got Tampa Bay, one of the best run defenses in the league. Not that it's easy for Sanders. The Titans, I believe, are a top run defense as well. But I believe it's kind of like the Tua Wilson stuff. I trust in the Eagles offense better. I think the Eagles offense is better overall. So the talent's there, the trust is there. So I think I'll go with Sanders. Kamara probably has the higher upside because we know what Kamara is capable of. It's just so inconsistent and that offense can't be trusted. And, against a good defense at Tampa Bay, that could just be a pretty bad game for them. So I'll stick with Sanders here.
Yeah, and the volume's been going to Sanders. I will say the passing game hasn't much. 3 catches this week ties a season high. So you definitely have the receiving game going toward Kamara, and I think that really plays in his favor here in a full PPR matchup. He hasn't had below 3 catches since week 3. So the receiving game is definitely playing in his favor, and I think that is what leans me a little bit. I think this also is kind of the season is on the line here for Tampa. They still do technically have a shot at the playoffs here, especially with their division. Tampa is leading the division there. I think they're up a 1 game in the win column over New Orleans with about 5 left. So I think this is the game that if New Orleans wants to make the playoffs, they have to win this game. So I think they're going to rely on an Alvin Kamara. The Tampa defense is good, but not as good as San Francisco, and then they really clamp down on Kamara. I think this is the game that it's do or die. So I would ride with Kamara here. I think the upside's there. The passing game really helps with the volume kind of floor play. And Sanders really feasted this week, but I think he comes back down to earth a little bit. I think it's going to be a tougher matchup defensively with Tennessee coming into Philly. So I think that's going to be a game where, hard to bench him after 21 for carries for 143 yards, 2 touchdowns. But I do think I would lean Kamara over Sanders this week.
Okay, moving to the wide receivers here, half-point PPR. Metcalf at the Rams. Amari Cooper at Houston or T. Higgins versus the Chiefs?
Yeah, that's an interesting one. 3 guys that I think you're pretty happy to play most weeks. DK Metcalf going up against the Rams. Not the easiest matchup, but he's been pretty consistent the last couple weeks here. Week 10, 6 catches, 71 yards. Bye week, and then week 12, 11 catches, 90 yards, and he's getting the targets as well. So I think it's hard to sit him at this point. Amari Cooper, first game back with John Watson, he's been fairly consistent himself. Amari Watson aside, he's had a couple back-to-back good weeks. And you imagine it's going to get better, but I don't think you truly know, and we're not going to know until we see it. And then you have T. Higgins, who we're waiting to see if Ja'Marr Chase comes back, but he's been over 100 yards back-to-back weeks. So I think that is, if Chase is out, I think it's Higgins easily for me. But I think I'd try to find a way to get multiple of these guys in my lineup. If Higgins isn't, I think it is really close. Or I'm sorry, if Chase is back, I think it's really close. It'd be Cooper or Higgins for me, I think, if Chase is back. But I think that, the volatility is there with both of them. I still probably lean Higgins. But I think this is a situation where if you can get more than one of these guys in your lineups, you're doing well, or you have a really good lineup regardless.
Yeah, agreed. It's not a bad situation to be in. I'm leaning Higgins, kind of regardless. Cooper I'm removing for mostly the same conversation I had with Watson. He'll probably be fine, but if Watson comes out and he's super rusty and terrible, then that's going to hurt Cooper quite a bit. And then, I trust the, Burrow and Higgins and in that offense a little bit more than I do Metcalf. Not that Metcalf can't have a great game. Just by preference, I'm leaning Higgins there, and that game could be pretty high scoring, where the Rams game might be pretty boring if Stafford's not playing there. So Higgins for me.
Right. Next receiver here, full PPR, Tyler Lockett, or in LA against the Rams, or Christian Watson at Chicago. Christian Watson, who now has 6 touchdowns on 12 catches the last 3 weeks.
Yeah, a lot of touchdowns. He's been getting good yardage too, so he's been just very good. And then getting a Chicago defense that not great. So that's pretty interesting. But at the same time, Lockett has been good for fantasy as well for a little while now. I think it's 4 weeks in a row, double digits. In our half point scoring, almost 15 or 13, 15, almost 12, 14. Yeah, that's pretty solid numbers. I would say Lockett's probably your safer option. Like, if you ask me to guarantee which one's going to hit double digits, it'd probably Lockett. And if Watson didn't do a lot, I don't think it would surprise anyone. But with that said, I'd probably lean on the ultra hot hand that is Lockett. Rodgers is looking for a number one. And maybe he's found him. So I will.
Watson?
Yeah. The Packers are looking for a number one overall. Watson, could fit that mold, and he's showing it so far. So 3 weeks in a row is good for me. I will. I'll stick with that. But if you are afraid of getting, 5 points, I would probably just go with Lockett.
Yeah, Lockett's definitely the floor play. I think I'll stay in the fire, though, with Watson, the way he's playing. There is definitely some concern with the possibility that Rodgers misses some time. The injury, he went to the locker room, didn't finish the game. Sounds like he thinks he's okay right now. So we'll see. But there's always a chance that they want to see what they have in Jordan Love. And he could come in at any point and be the quarterback the rest of the year to see what they have in him. So it's tough, but I do think that it's Christian Watson for me as well.
Okay, last wide receiver question, half point PPR, Darius Slayton versus the Commanders, Josh Palmer at Vegas.
Yeah, talking about staying in the flames, I am going to stay with Josh Palmer. Definitely, a more down week, we'll call it, 5 for 56, 7 targets, but still getting the targets, and it is the Vegas Raiders. That defense has given up yards to everyone. So I am going to stay with him there. Slayton's not bad, but I think he come back down to earth a little bit. 3 for 63 this most recent week. I think he is still pretty necessary there, but I'm not going to move away from Palmer at this stage.
Yeah, this one, I find this one kind of difficult. Slayton been very good. He was fine this week, really good prior to that. Like, he's had a really good run to him. Palmer has been good for fantasy and very usable all year long, which has really helped us out quite a bit, hasn't it? He has been kind of up and down, though. If you look, just going to read off a few weeks. He must not have played one of these games. I don't recall. 10 points, 0. I'm assuming he didn't play against Seattle. Bye week, 14, 6, 26, 8. Like, he's really up and down. But his ups are super high, and his downs are pretty similar to Slayton's downs. So while I don't mind either, I'll probably go with Josh Palmer here.
All right, that wraps up the wide receivers. Next up, flex question here. Full PPR, Kenneth Walker at the Rams or Deebo Samuel versus the Dolphins?
Yeah, I think I'll pretty easily go with Walker here. It could be a really big game for Deebo. Dolphins defense, not great. But their offense, good enough. So maybe it's a high scoring game or a lot of back and forth, but besides week 11, we haven't seen a lot from Deebo in the last half of the year so far. Where Kenneth Walker should get plenty of work. I could see them running away with that game and just running the clock out at the end. So I'm leaning Walker.
All right. I think I agree with you there. Walker's just too hot of a play right now. Deebo's a little more up and down. So, he's he was on fire earlier in the year. We've had some other guys kind of step up and make it a more even of a overall offense. You've seen Ayuk involved, Kittle involved, running backs involved. So I'll take the safer play that still has a really high upside of Kenneth Walker. He's clearly the guy there in Seattle.
Okay, we'll move over to the trade side of things. As we said last week, we're done with the redraft, all dynasty stuff moving forward. We're starting with a straight up trade to start here. Well, PPR Superflex, George Kittle, Deontay Johnson.
Yeah, that's a tough one. I usually like taking the receivers, running backs, and trades here, but Superflex, PPR, I think I lean Kittle here. I mean, he's, when healthy, he's, kind of back to being one of the top guys. So I think it's, the offense looks good, especially rest of the year. Kittle is definitely the guy. But, going forward, I think it's still a pretty fair trade overall, getting that difference maker there at the tight end position, even though it's not one of the top two guys. He's still a very good player.
Yeah, this one I do find difficult. I get it. Deontay hasn't been what you wanted, but you kind of expect that with a rookie and Pickett playing and, the overall Steelers offense not being great. Kittle, I worry about longer term. He is getting older. There's a lot of weapons there. You don't know what the quarterback situation is going to be after this year. So I guess I would say if you're a contender and need a tight end, I'd go with Kittle. Any other situation, I think I'd just take Deontay and move on and try to find another tight end. But I've been down on Kittle for a little while now, fantasy-wise, so maybe that, I'm biased or something.
Yeah, but like I said, I think it's a pretty fair trade both ways. Next up here, Dynasty PPR Superflex. Jordan Love, Chase Claypool, David Bell, receiver there for Cleveland, or Matt Stafford and a 2025 second-round pick.
I don't know what to make of this. The first, I don't care about the pick. 2025 is too far out. Like that pick, it's 3 years away. It just doesn't have any value. Neither does Jordan Love, probably. I mean, maybe, but I doubt it. I mean, if he was something, they would have moved on from Rodgers already, I think. Stafford, I worry, is not long for this football world. Every year, the injuries are just starting to mount up on him. All the back injuries in Detroit, the elbow or shoulder, I forget what it was last season, and then continuing into this year. Now the concussions, it's starting to add up a little bit. He's won his Super Bowl. Claypool's been disappointing, but maybe an off season and the continued growth of Fields would be good. Bell, still a promising young player. Hopefully we can see some more out of him. So I think I'll take the Jordan Love, Claypool, Bell side. You bump that pick up to like a 2023 second, I'd be more interested. But because it's so far out, I just don't see a lot of value on that side. So I'll take the Love Claypool Bell side. What about you?
Yeah, I'm right there with you. I think that makes the most sense to me. Stafford, definitely a down year, and I don't think he's done, but I think he's on kind of the downward trend, and the second is so far away. I mean, obviously you could then trade that for something else, but it's just a future second. Whereas you've got guys that I think could step into something here. Claypool should be back in Chicago, and we'll see what they can build around him next year. Dave Bell, shown some flashes here early on. That's really what you want to see out of a rookie. And Jordan Love looked pretty good there at the end of the game Sunday night, and maybe he is the future there in Green Bay. If they get eliminated, we may be able to see what he has going forward.
Yeah, never bad to have a dart throw at the quarterback position in a Superflex league. Next one. Sticking with Superflex, this one also has a tight end premium. Would you trade Justin Jefferson for Terry McLaurin, David Montgomery, and a late 23 first?
Would not. I think it's decent, but I would not make that trade, and I think I would gladly make that trade from the other side to get Jefferson. Montgomery's good, but he's probably on the back half of his usable fantasy assets. McLaurin is solid as well, but they need to get a quarterback, and they've had decent quarterbacks. I don't think any as good as Kirk Cousins, but he's been okay with those, up and down, whereas Jefferson's been elite with a decent quarterback. So they ever decide to move on and get a better quarterback, I think Jefferson's just, a difference maker. And the late first is, a nice bonus, but I think I'd want, a multiple first or an early first as like a centerpiece of a package there for Jefferson. I just, for me, I don't think that's enough.
Yeah, me too. It's Justin Jefferson pretty easily. If this was the McLaurin of like his rookie year when he was breaking out and everyone thought he's going to be the next big thing, I'd be more interested, but not with what we have been seeing. I also just, as you were talking, Will, and then I just had kind of a crazy thought. Do you remember Brett Favre went from Green Bay to the Jets to the Vikings? Wouldn't it be kind of weird, given Zach Wilson sucks, if Aaron Rodgers went to the Jets for whatever, a year or two, it didn't work out, and then the Vikings moved on from Cousins,
and they went there?
Yeah. Like it's not, very slim odds, but the situation's kind of there for it to happen. It'd just be super interesting. That's just my dumb brain doing stuff. But yeah, it's Jefferson pretty easy.
I thought you were going to go the other side and say it wouldn't be interesting if Aaron Rodgers ended up in Washington.
Yeah, that would be something. I mean, this trade, I was going to say this trade would be more interesting with McLaurin having Rodgers, but Rodgers is going to start fading at some point here, so maybe not. But yeah, that would be.
All right, next up here, another package for a big-time player, Jonathan Taylor for Devin Singletary, a 23 first and a 24 first.
I don't think I'd consider it. I'd just take the JT side. If I was the Singletary side, I definitely want JT. If I was JT and, I want to rebuild, it's not bad, but like Singletary is not the one I want. I'd rather have someone younger. Try to get like an ETN from somebody or something like that. So yeah, I'm sticking with JT pretty easily, I think.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. I think it's JT pretty easily here. I'd want just more kind of solidified pieces for him. The 2 first is a solid start. I probably would want, a younger running back that has, more promise if I was going to make that move.
Okay, final question. Back to Mr. Claypool, PPR Superflex, Chase Claypool or a 2023 and 2024 second?
Yeah, I don't think that's bad. I think it just depends what you think of Claypool, what you're doing. If you're rebuilding, I think I'm not huge on him, and I believe he's a free agent after next year. So we'll see what Fields can do if you want to take a shot on him. But they still have Mooney. I think they ultimately need to get just a true number 1 receiver there. I don't think it's Claypool or Mooney. So I Yeah, I don't mind taking that package if you're looking to move off of him. And if you want to take a shot on him, I think 2 seconds is bid. So I think it's pretty good either way. I'm not a big Claypool fan, so I probably would take the picks and just kind of stockpile there. But I think it's pretty fair both sides.
Yeah, I agree. It's fair. If you want to take the shot, like I said earlier, I was talking about Claypool, maybe an off season, Fields grows, he goes together, blah, blah. Then it would be a good trade. But we haven't seen it since he's in Chicago. We weren't seeing it in Pittsburgh outside of year one. Now, he had an aging Big Ben, he had Trubisky and a rookie quarterback. So you can make excuses for that, but I'm kind of with you. Cheap enough, I'd take the dart throw on him, but I would rather just have the trade capital really of the 2 picks.
Yeah, I think that makes sense.
Yeah, and that's we're going to wrap everything up here. So tune in next week 14, for another waiver and start sit show. Until then, folks, good luck this week and trust your board.